Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Wow, look at all the beautiful faces. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being patient as we worked out some technical audio issues. It is so wonderful to see you here today. They keep coming. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Coffee with the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. I am Lisa Payton Kerr, founder, CEO, and president of the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness, here with our FFBWW team, WAVE team, including our co-host, Aaliyah Stevenson, who is the Chief Programs Officer here at the Foundation. And we are so happy to be joined with our special guest, Laleda G., who I will introduce, in a second. As you all know, our morning coffee calls are a weekly hour for us to connect, to inspire, inform, energize, and empower you on your journey as well, Black women. And it fits into our overall mission to empower a generation of well Black women. We're always happy when you show up to spend this time with us. And these calls have been exhilarating for us. They've been learning opportunities. If you've been with us for the first 4, you know that we've had amazing guests. For those who joined last week and the week before, we had 2 powerful women leaders in our community serving on the front lines of the social justice work in our community. And it was very important to us to switch gears today to focus on yet another foremost Black woman leader and leader in her own right, Laleda G., whose work is another form of social justice in defending Black girls and women. And we're going to dig into that today. But first, we ask you to stay muted. We love seeing your faces, so we've collectively decided that we want all of our calls to keep your video. We want your video showing because your faces inspire us in the conversation. And we love seeing your reactions and all of your responses to the rich information that we share. And it's also wonderful to see new faces joining us this morning. Again, this is an interactive session. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear your comments. We want to see your responses. So please enter your questions in the chat box throughout the call. If you want to say hallelujah, say that. If you want to say that's right, I second that, say that. It encourages us to go on. Aaliyah will be asking questions along the way. And our business highlight today, Aaliyah will share with us, and it happens to be Laleda. Go on.
If you don't already have your mug, hello.
That's right.
Make sure that you pick that up. I'm going to be dropping information again about Laleda. We're highlighting her again for a second time on Morning Coffee. That's how much we love her, respect her, and cherish her here in the Madison community. And she does more than just this. So we definitely want you to check out her site. She's a speaker. She's an artist. She's an amazing community healer and warrior, and there's just so much for us to learn and gain from her. So I'll be dropping that information in the chat. And I also want to highlight, of course, as we come up on Juneteenth, there's amazing activities happening here in our community virtually. You can be safe, be at home, and still engage in this important time. So I'm going to drop that in there. We're part of a panel on Saturday, but the events start tomorrow and last all weekend. So please also check that out and engage. It's an important part of our community's history. So I will drop that in the chat box as well. Thank you.
Yes, and for those who joined the call, I saw Mama Mona Winston holding up her Laleda G mug. Where is it? Where is it? Yes. Please go to laleda.org today, you all. We've been, Jackie Hunt, yes, put it up there, Ms. Jackie, yes.
I love it.
It gave us so much joy, Laleda, to purchase these mugs, and my family drinks out of them, and we have a stash at our office. We just recently ordered some of your glass mason jars.
Yes.
Cannot wait to get those. We're going to distribute some as gifts to the women in our Project Live Well Fitness program, and then we're going to keep some for our staff. And we've had guests at our office already to use your mugs to ask, where do these beautiful mugs come from? We've eaten at Short Stack Eatery, and we've drank coffee out of your mugs there. You're huge supporters. So you all, in the spirit of Juneteenth, particularly this week, as we lead up to what I call our Freedom Day this Friday and throughout the weekend. Yes, our annual Freedom Day, that's a part of our history and our struggle in freedom. Please support Laleda's business. It's crucial that we not just support the person's work in social justice, but we support their bottom line, their business. And these are beautiful pieces of art to have in your house. And she's got many, many more products, art for your walls. I think I've seen journals. You can get the art on just about any kind of product, a t-shirt, curtains, a bath, shower curtain, everything. So please support Laleda at Laleda.org. And Laleda, how powerful to have a website just named after your first name, Laleda. You know, you just need just one word, Laleda.
Yes.
Yeah, so as we get started, ladies, we always check in. So we want you to tell us, our guests, how you're doing this morning. You can tell us on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1, we see you, Aaliyah, with 1 being, you know, I'm struggling this morning to pull it together, and 10 being, I'm doing excellent. Just weigh in, tell us how you're doing, and let's get into it. Laleda. Laleda G is an artist, healer, author, international speaker, life coach, and podcast host. Drawing upon her own experiences as a survivor of both childhood sexual abuse and domestic violence, Laleda founded a nonprofit organization, Defending Black Girlhood, or DBG. Defending Black Girlhood is committed to ensuring that Black girls are safe in our homes, schools, and faith communities to live, learn, and be loved. And again, you can see all of Laleta's work at Laleda.org. And we encourage you to sign up and follow her Defending Black Girl podcast. You can see the very bold and powerful logo graphic behind her. You can't miss it online. And Laleda, you broadcast pretty regularly. And again, it was very important for us, Laleda, to have you here today as we're in this week of freedom. And as we see Black women on the front lines in our community, in the Black Lives Matter movement, in running our organizations, one of the things that we commonly say is we all play a role, though we have different positions and there are different roles that we play, but this is social justice work that we're each and all doing in defense of Black women and girls. And you and I also have a 25-year history, right? You were raised here in Madison your entire life. You graduated school here. And I came to Madison by way of marriage in 1993 and met you shortly after. So it's been about 25, 26 years since we've known each other. And I just need to note that at that time, you were already doing the work of supporting and healing Black women and girls. I remember maybe I was 23, 24 years old, mother of 3 at that time, and you invited me to be a panelist on a mother-daughter Mother's Day event where we were talking about this very topic. And I remember that day because you were so powerful, your work was already profound, and that was 25 years ago, and here you still remain on this journey, and it has evolved into more things and really been crystallized through your Black Woman Heal work and your Defending Black Girlhood work. So I want to thank you for your contributions, your legacy, how you've poured into Black women's healing and this new generation of free Black women that we're working to grow, and for giving up your time today to spend this time with us. So you've been this powerful presence in our community. How are you doing right now in the midst of all that's going on? And what are your rituals for self-care that keep you centered as you push continuously?
I'm doing better today. Yesterday was a hard day. Lita Green passed. And she was a strong force in our community and helped so many people. And to me, she kind of is the antithesis of Black women.
Laleda, we're losing you a bit on your sound, your audio.
Still struggle.
There we
go. For me, she was, okay, here we go, sorry. To me, she was like the antithesis of the Black woman who gives so much and struggles. And as strong as we are as Black women, as much as we've fought and much we've been through, you know, to have us go too soon, that was just really heavily weighing on my heart for her. And so many of us who are out in this battle. And so we have to be reminded that do we as Black women who are on the front line working this work in our many different iterations, how do we take care of ourselves? You know, I never understood that self-care, you know, is revolutionary. I didn't understand that as much as I do this year. Understanding that when we take care of ourselves, because I believe all these forces come to knock us out of the game. And so it made me stop and think about self-care deeply yesterday. And for me, one of the biggest things lately has been the art that God has given back to me. It's my prayer, it's my meditation, it's where I find God. And it helps me to flow out. You know, I started doing art again when I was doing a lot of trauma work with girls in kindergarten, first grade. It was so heavy, and I was carrying their little pain with me. And I was just backed up. And I just started drawing, and it was the relief that I needed. It was the release that I needed to get back up every day to do the work. And prayer.
Yes, Laleda, we are having trouble with your sound, but we heard most of what you said. And we're going to pray right now that this sound works out for the rest of this call. You all may have missed a bit at the beginning of Laleda's comments that our community lost a beloved woman. Her name was Lolita Green. She was a mother, a grandmother, an aunt, and she lost her life in the battle against COVID-19. And we are grieving her as a community. She was tied to many women in our direct foundation circle. And so we give honor to her today, and we send comfort to those, even on this call, who I know were a part of her life. Laleda, you spoke about prayer,
yes,
faith, and your art. We had a discussion last week about Black women healing as we lead, as we continuously fight, recognizing that in many ways our lives have historically been a fight. Our experience in the United States has been a fight for freedom, for justice, or recognition as human beings. Why do you think, you know, as last week, that video now has been viewed over 5,000 times, and women talked about how that topic truly resonated with them. Why do you think healing as we fight, healing as we lead, resonates so deeply with Black women? And how is our freedom tied to our healing as Black women and girls?
That's a great question. And unfortunately, I think healing as we lead doesn't resonate enough with Black women. We've been taught by the mothers that have come before us, no matter what comes, just keep going, push through, you know, go anyway, fight anyway. And I think healing is last on our agenda as Black women, if it's on our agenda at all. And if it's not on our agenda, it most certainly is not on anybody else's agenda. And we have to make ourselves a priority, you know, because no matter what's going on in the Black community, Black women are the center of it if they're not the head of it. And if we don't take care of ourselves, then the very cornerstone upon which the Black family rests is destroyed.
Yeah, it brought me to a quote this morning as I was preparing for this call. Commonly heard in our community that a nation can only rise as high as its women. A nation can only rise as high as its women. When you think about yes. Black women as the centerpiece of our communities, of our homes, of our families, we bring forth the children, we raise and nurture the children, we raise and nurture the men, we raise and nurture everyone, and yet we still fight, right? We're on the front lines, often in battle amongst all those roles that we play. And it's crucial that our healing is paramount on the list of priorities, because if we're not whole and healthy, it affects everyone. But when we are whole and healthy, oh my goodness, the impact, the magnitude. Watch out, right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So a significant part of your work, Leleda, has been shaped by your experience as a survivor and a warrior against childhood sexual abuse. So surviving and then becoming a warrior has been a part of your story. And I recall the book you published in 2006. At the time, I was publishing an online magazine, Sisters Speak Online, and I was living in Maryland, and I was still watching your work from Maryland. And when you published this book, it was shocking because I didn't know the full story. You had referred to it years prior when I had lived in Madison the first time, but your book was raw and it was open and it was completely through the eyes of a child and your memories recounting the experiences you had at the hands of an abuser, of a dangerous, violent abuser. And you've literally had to fight for your freedom. And now you're fighting for the lives and the freedom of all Black women and girls everywhere. Tell us about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, places where we have been broken, places where we have been hurt, is what gives us our greatest shame. And we can stay there, and that can be the period behind that sentence. But what God has shown me is that those same broken places is where he meets us. And if we allow him, it will become our greatest strength. And I had intended to go to the grave without ever talking about being sexually abused. And as God began to heal my life, he gave me the boldness to not only whisper it, but to shout it loud and boldly and proudly, because I learned that the shame that I was carrying was not my own, that it belonged to my abuser, that it belonged to my mother for choices she made, but the shame was not mine. And as I allowed God to heal me, it gave me the boldness to be able to step out, because I didn't have a defender. You know, my home was a battleground and I did not have a defender. And the ones who should have defended me were the ones who were wounding me. And so that has inspired me to really stand in front of our Black girls, because they're so vulnerable. You know, one of my recent speeches, I was quoting Malcolm X and how he was saying the most disrespected person in America was the Black woman. I agree with him, but I have to add a add-on. It's really the Black girl. Because if you think about it, when we look at one of the biggest issues of the adultification of Black girls, people are looking at our little girls as many Black women, and they don't have power, they don't have voice, they don't have authority. So even though we as Black women receive so much kickback and so much oppression, at least we have some power to push back. And so with that in mind, I just said, we Black women, first of all, I'm calling us out, must defend our girls, must be their voices. And the best way we can do that is first healing, you know, because it's hard to defend what you won't acknowledge.
Yes. Your talk this morning had me just Googling quotes and your work, your life, your story. And for those who heard me refer to the book, it's called I Can't Live Like This Anymore. It's available on Amazon.com. It is Leleda's raw story through the eyes of a girl who lived a very unprotected, you know, when you say undefended girlhood. I will warn you, many of us, I will tell you, many of us, without going into detail, have had our experiences with sexual assault or inappropriate interactions with people we trust. I have my own stories around that. You need to be prepared before you read this book. You need to understand that this book is something that if you've had that experience or someone close to you has, you need to go in ready. And we felt, Leleda, when I read it, that it was a necessary purging
Yes.
You know, and that you had committed to just telling it, and that you were no longer, as you said, going to carry the shame, the guilt. You were a 5-year-old girl, right? 5-year-old girl. And through the years, no one coming to your aid in this very particular way. And so the book is you coming to your own aid.
Yes.
And clearing the way for a new level of freedom. And there's a quote, 2 quotes. Toni Morrison, she says, freeing yourself was one thing. Claiming ownership of that freed self was another. She also says, if you want to fly, you got to give up the shit that weighs you down.
My God.
Yes. And I'm sorry, that's what she said, y'all. I'm sorry, that's what she said. Yes. You got to give up the things that weigh you down, and just let that, you know, ruminate with you for a minute as we go on. Aaliyah.
Yeah. So we're kind of already perfectly moving into it, talking about defending Black girlhood, talking about your book, but you also have a podcast, and congratulations on launching your new podcast.
Thank you.
In this podcast, you focus on the story of Erica Hill, a 15-year-old Black teenage girl murdered in Fitchburg, body found in Gary, Indiana.
Yes.
Tell us about this and why her story and stories like hers are tied to all of our freedom.
Woo. So I originally was introduced to the story of Erica Hill by a friend of mine. I had heard about it in 2015. And when I went to look back into it, my friend had suggested doing an interview of the daughter who turned in her mother. And she accused her mother of murdering Erica. And originally I wanted to interview her because one of the things that this young lady said was that she wanted to break generational curses. And this is why she told after so many years. She declined the interview. But by that time, I was so deep into the story about Erica, I couldn't get away, and I decided to move forward. And as I examined her story, you know, Lisa, as you said, I've been doing this work for a long time. I've been at this for 30-some years. I've been a social worker. I've worked in schools. I've, preached. A lot of hats I've worn. And I have never seen a story of one child that was so grotesquely missed by everybody, by school, by people in the church, by social services, by the community people, where if people had just done a little something, made a call, just a little something, this baby would be with us today. And I think it's important to tell her story for a number of reasons. But as we look at the epidemic of missing Black girls and women in America, there's some 65,000 reported missing Black girls and women. And I decided, that's a big thing to take on. How do you tell the story of 65,000 missing Black girls and women? I decided to tell that story by bringing it down to one story of one girl that was missing. And if we can understand and examine Erica's story and see what were the things that led up to her being missing for essentially 12 years, then I think we can understand that each one of those young women that are missing has a story and has characters in her story. And that as characters in the lives of Black girls around them, we have a responsibility to make sure that we speak up and we speak out on their behalf. And Erica Hill, her story and her experience was buried with her in that Jane Doe grave. And it is my intention to make her not only known in our community, because she was our baby, but nationally and internationally. I want people to know Erica Hill's name. And I want them to understand her story and how we can really examine ourselves so that the next Erica that comes our way, we're doing the work that we need to do.
If you all were unmuted right now, I would ask you to say her name.
Yes.
3 times.
Yes.
And perhaps we'll do that at the end. But where you are right now, I just want you to repeat her name, Erica Hill.
Yeah.
Erica Hill.
Erica Hill.
Erica
Erica
Hill.
Hill. Yes.
15 years old, 12 years missing. Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Body found in Gary, Indiana. Leleda, we've all seen more national attention from Black women, talking about the missing Black girls across our country, but I had not heard the word 65,000. Had not heard that number specifically until you drilled that into our heads over the course of several of your podcasts, which you launched in the midst of COVID-19. You were determined to get this launched.
Yes.
And I have a question to you all who are listening. Who's paying attention? You know, what do you see in the realm of how our community is watching and listening to Black girls? You know, what has your experience been in your life as a Black girl? Who defended you?
Yes.
Where do we need to do more of the work? Who's showing up for our girls?
Yes.
How else can we show up for our girls? Aaliyah, what are we hearing in the chat from our earlier questions and comments?
Sorry, we're saying her name. We're saying Erica Hill.
Yes.
And we thank you for sharing that, just talking about how powerful it is, thanking you for bringing these stories forward. And folks are feeling pretty good. Some folks coming in around a 4 or 5, but this conversation's giving them some energy that they need. Your story, talking about beauty from ashes, right?
Yeah.
And so I think just people just really resonating with what you're sharing. And then of course, wanting to know where they can pick up your book. So we've shared that information as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. And on that note, you know, I bumped into you on State Street the other evening, Leleda, as we were looking at all of your murals. How many murals do you have down on State Street?
Well, I was with a team of women, and collectively, I think we did about 12 murals.
Wow.
Yeah, so some were individual, some were together. And it was very special for me because I was out there painting with my son and daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I was out there painting with my goddaughter, Cassie Marzette, and my community daughter, Maya Pearson, and her daughter. And that was such a blessing to me because Maya was in my group as a girl.
Wow.
And as much as I've tried to escape Madison, one thing that has been my gift is the ability to have seen my babies grow up into women, grow up into mothers, and to be able to interface with them. So what a gift to be able to create this art with her and her daughter. You know, it was a blessing.
It was a blessing. And I think when I bumped into you, I was with my children, right?
Yes.
And my daughter, Amira, and Alana, who worked collaboratively on the Tony Robinson painting, which is around the corner from just one of your incredible art pieces. Not only did we talk about that experience of being mothers who are defending our own children's lives, but seeing our children grow and grow into their talents and being so blessed and fortunate that they persisted through all the things that we've known they've had to struggle through.
Yes.
In Madison and Wisconsin.
Yes.
And I also shared with you that in talking about your work the other day and that we were going to have this podcast, that my own children, a few of them, relayed to me some experiences that I was not aware of, that they held and told me now as adults, that really bring forth the question and the issue of needing to sit and talk with our children and to defend our children in ways, even in environments that appear to be safe, with
yes.
people we trust.
Yes.
This is a conversation we're not having enough in our community, you all. There are so many women that we've met through Black Women's Wellness Day and the work of the foundation and in our very open conversations about healing from trauma who have divulged to us at 60, 70 years old and younger that they've held a secret of a violation carried out against them by loved ones, usually not strangers.
Right.
Not strangers.
Right.
This is a difficult conversation to have, but as we talk about Black women and girls, defending our freedom in a new world, we cannot skip over the difficult pieces of the things we have to confront externally against the dangers outside, and internally, those things that we must uproot and purge from our family and community experiences. And Leleda, we just want to highlight how courageous and bold and necessary your work is. Now, you and I were both on a radio show last week with Wisconsin Public Radio, along with Jackie Hunt, talking about the murder of George Floyd, police brutality, our children, what it takes as Black mothers, our plight to raise free children in a world discolored by racism. And you started, that call was very focused on George Floyd and the murder of Black men. And you immediately, as the first speaker, recentered the interviewer's attention on Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor and Sandra Bland and other Black women who've been killed by police, because they were not a part of the conversation.
No.
It was not planned that they would be mentioned.
Absolutely.
You also stated in that call your experience at a march you attended of thousands of people. And as they chanted the names of George Floyd, you stopped to ask, and what about Breonna? So in that, you were again defending Black womanhood, Black girlhood. Tell us about that experience and those remarks and why it was critically important to do that.
Yes. And it was kind of comical and also sad, because I could hear that I threw the host off when I said Breonna Taylor. Like, she didn't know what to say. She began to scramble. So this is the thing. I think that Black women are always on the forefront. Civil rights, look at the pictures. Black women and children. And if we, as Black women, don't elevate our experiences, we will continue to be left out of the conversation. And so the most dangerous place in America for a Black girl and for a Black woman is her home. Let that sink in. It's her home. And so while my heart as a Black mother of a Black son grieves, George Floyd, and I grieve, Tamir Rice and all the young men who have been killed, unarmed Black men who have been killed. But as a Black woman and as a Black community, we need to understand this. Those men were killed on the street. Breonna Taylor and Atiana Jefferson were killed in their homes. And if we don't understand that becomes a security issue for all of us, we know we're not safe on the streets. We know we have to fear when we're being stopped in our cars. We know this. We know this. But now we're not safe in our homes on a whole nother level. And if we don't bring this to the forefront, we have lost the last foundation from being safe from outside forces. And so that's why I believe it's really critical, particularly to talk about these two sister stories, but collectively about the women in general. And, I think it's important for us as Black women to understand that we are the gatekeepers to our own deliverance. Oh. We hold the key to our own deliverance, and we have locked the gate. We have locked our issues out. We have sacrificed for the greater good. Mm. And until we begin to demand, no, forget demanding. I don't have no more demand in me right now. Until we embrace and walk forth in our own power, on our own behalf, tell our own stories, tell the stories of our girls and stand in front of them, nobody else will. Nobody else will. History has told us this. And so I'm not waiting for any movement. I'm not waiting for any hashtag. I'm not waiting for permission from no damn body to bring to the forefront Black girls and Black women. And I will continue. If you put a microphone in front of me, if you give me a palette to paint, if you give me a damn mug, I'm going to bring forth the images so you can see us and you can begin to hear us. And when we start doing it as Black women, when we unlock ourselves, come on.
Come on.
Yes.
Woo. When we unlock ourselves. Say that,
Yes.
Leleda. Preach.
Girl,
Come on, Aaliyah. Tell us
girl.
these comments. What are we hearing in the chat? I see it's
I'm
getting
sorry.
revved up.
I'm having some chills. Got the snaps, claps. I tell you what, Leleda better stop. Yes, say it louder for the people in the back. Yes,
Okay.
Shalisha. There's some beautiful just conversations. We're talking about the power of grandmothers and protecting folks. Miss Mona was talking about that. Miss Alice is talking about the memories of being silenced by relatives. People
Yes.
that you love silencing you, and just how we want to
Yes.
bury descriptives such as fast, womanish, heifer, some of this language that's tied to us. And you were talking about earlier about how we say words over young ladies that indicate that they're older than they are if they have choice in some of these things. So I mean, everybody's just like really feeling it right now. Ooh, yes, Jackie, ooh, we unlock ourselves. Yes, the fear of being free. We are so used to having to restrain ourselves. Oh, your words are powerful. I mean, we're chopping it up in this chat.
Oh, that's my old professor. Hi, Professor. Hi.
Dr. Frida, hi. Yes.
Yes.
That's Badger. Yes, Dr. Frida. Woo, Leleda, you have opened a box with that last response, and there's so many thoughts flying through my head, and I want you to speak about this. And this is the tough part. How do we confront our own BS? Yes. You talked about, we know my grandmother, oh my Lord God, my grandmother was also my mother. Mm-hmm. My grandmother was a protector. She was the most loving woman. And I'm grateful to come from a legacy of protective Black women. Mm-hmm. But I've also witnessed in my extended family, and of course in our community at large, and I'm not speaking from a judgment perspective. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking from a concerned perspective of much of what I see and hear, and how we often talk to our children. Yes. How we talk to our girls, the playfulness sometimes in the speech, you know, in modern speech, and how women refer to each other. That's my B, that's my this, half of this, that. It's not all right with me. You know, it's not all right with me, because words do have meaning. Yes, and it matters. And that playfulness, that speech comes from a place that's not playful, and comes a culture that has named us in derogatory ways, just as powerfully as the N word, the way in which Black women have been characterized as Jezebels, as in so many negative ways historically. And as we think about and talk about this as we lead up to Juneteenth, and think about the full ownership of Black women's humanity and bodies and birthing and babies, through the legacy of slavery, even down to the point where our own breast milk didn't belong to us and was used to power someone else's children who would one day grow to own us, and all that complexity of how many were left to feel about ourselves as Black women, and the work we've had to do generationally to write our own speech and tell our own stories and create our own art and our own organizations to push our own causes and to define ourselves on our own terms. That is so critical, because we have to be evolved enough as Black women to step into that powerful place. And I remember when I started Sister Speak online magazine years ago, and I wanted to create this space for Black women. This was pre-Black Women's Wellness Day, right? Way before the foundation. I Googled the words Black women. This was maybe 1999, 2000. All I got for the first several hundred Google results was pornography.
Yes.
All types of negative, you know, videos of us in our worst light.
Absolutely.
Being demeaned and diminished in the worst of ways. And so that has evolved primarily because Black women have stepped into those spaces and created new definitions. So why is it so important that we as Black women own our responsibility and our power to define our own selves? But how do we hold each other accountable when we see our sisters being a part of the BS that names us and places us in positions that are below our worth?
Yes. I think part of it is being really conscious about what we're giving our energy to. And is the thing that we're giving our energy to then coming back to us, back to the things that we're concerned about? You know, I know for a while there was this whole thing about mute R. Kelly. And that was a big thing. You can see all these Black women out there, mute R. Kelly, mute R. Kelly. Well, I made a post and I basically said, I won't say exactly what I said, but I said, F R. Kelly, mute your damn uncle, mute your stepfather, mute your nasty ass brother. Yes. You know, because muting R. Kelly is not going to keep my girls safe. What's going to keep my girls safe is making sure that the pedophiles, which hide behind the skirts of Black women, y'all, pedophiles in our family hide behind the skirts of Black women. And until we start muting these pedophiles in our family, don't come with me with that stuff. So we got to get out of the BS of this is action. This is doing something. This is helping something. And so the challenge becomes, first of all, making our family safe for our girls, making our families safe for ourselves. And so I'm calling out moms. I'm calling out grandmothers, because often we make excuses. Well, that's your uncle. I don't want to see another Black man in jail. My whole thing is, if you've shown that you don't know what to do with your stuff, you don't even deserve to keep it no more. I believe in castration of pedophiles, period. But they're able to hide in our families because people come more to the aid of them than they do of the girls. I'll give you, for instance, most recently, my brother had put up a post and he mentioned the fact that my stepfather, George Fleming Jr., had sexually abused me as a child. And that's the story I tell in my book. Well, his nephew, Tim Richards, came on Facebook and basically told me, if you don't stop talking about my uncle, I'm going to start posting stuff about your mom. Now, first of all, read my book, because I talk about my mama, my daddy, my Negro in the alley, okay? First of all. Secondly, he believes that his uncle sexually abused me and still says, stop talking about my uncle. So what do we do with folks who don't believe? You hear what I'm saying? But why does he feel like he has to come to the aid of a grown pedophile? Why is that his aid? You know what I'm saying? Instead of looking in our families to make sure, because understand this, pedophilia does not go away. One does not grow out of pedophilia. So if somebody, mama, if somebody sexually abused you, your uncle, your brother, your grandfather, you best believe when they can get their hands on your daughter, they're going to do it. And so what we end up seeing are these multi-generations of Black women that have been abused by the same man. And I've heard story after story of Black girls trying to tell their mothers, their grandmothers, that they have been sexually abused by their brother, their uncle, their dad, and being rebuked, not being believed. And so we have to first confront our issues. You know, I'm always going to go back when we're talking about what do we do as women. I'm always going to go back to our foundation of pain, our foundation of woundedness. Because if we don't address that, we will sweep it away. If I don't address the fact that I was sexually abused, I don't want to deal with it in you. I don't want to deal with it in that girl. I don't want to deal with it in my cousin. I don't want to deal with it in anybody. So if we don't go visit where we've been wounded, and if we don't do our healing work, the next generation is at risk. And so I've had different iterations of my work, and I really landed on defending Black girl being my thing, because I realized that we have to have that at the forefront, because our girls are losing their girlhoods. And then we grow up and we have kids and we mother out of that brokenness. We wife out of that brokenness. We teach out of that brokenness. We banker out of that brokenness. We do all of these things out of our brokenness. And we pass that pain on and on and on. And because of it, we leave our girls today vulnerable to the same people who abused us.
Oh, So how do we heal, Aleida? I know
Yes.
there's so much you're saying, and that there's the complexity of defending Black men when they are in those cases where they're the source of your trauma. You know, that's a whole
Yes.
call. As we talk about liberation, as we talk about freedom, as we talk about healing in our community, you know, we got the work of healing ourselves in the external community where we know what that's about, but how we heal internally in our own communities when the ones we love deeply and who we're also guarding against external forces are the ones who are the root of our trauma.
Yes.
With that being said, you know, I know you all that this may be a trigger conversation for many. And if it's bringing up issues and feelings for anyone on this call that you feel you need to work through beyond this call, please inbox us privately, chat, so we can reach back to you. Aleida, I know that your work is about amplifying the issue and forcing our attention to this issue, which continuously does hide behind the skirts of our community, right?
Yes.
It's time to break it open, but a significant part of your work is the healing process, the work of healing. How do women, maybe even someone on this call who this is bringing up issues and experiences and memories, what's the process of healing and moving through that to reach a place of wholeness?
Yes.
What does that look like?
Well, I think it's important. One, I think we need to redefine triggers. I think triggers aren't our enemy. They're really our friend, because they come to show us where we've broken. And they're trying to say, hey, this is you. She's talking about you. Because we start looking around somebody else. You know, who's she talking to? So embrace your trigger, because it's really coming to help you. And so part of healing is one is believing that we can. I didn't believe I could heal. I didn't believe it was a possibility. Believing that we can, believing it is our birthright. We Black women are the healers of the earth. Okay? It is our birthright to both heal and be healed. And so believing that it's possible, visiting your place of pain and stand outside of it. Sometimes we have to really go back and in our mind's eye, embrace that little girl inside of us that has been wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, wanted to be protected. There have been times in my healing process, I would just imagine my little self and I would hold her. And I told myself one day, in the midst of my self-hatred, I said, you know, the world around you hadn't been kind to you. You cannot be the voices of those people. You cannot be the hands of those people hurting yourself. So understand, are you doing anything right now? What's hurting you? Are you doing anything to hurt yourself? Self-love is one thing, but self-abuse is another, right? And so I'm not talking about going to get a pedicure and a manicure. I'm not talking about going to get that purse or that car or that clothing. I'm talking about up in here. Real self-love means that I will go to the place where I hurt. And as Black women, you know, and I am an angry Black woman. You know, when I was painting this cute picture downtown, this woman said, oh, it's just so great to see this. And, you know, getting over the anger or not having the anger. I said, don't get it twisted that I'm painting a little Black girl with some hairballs. I'm mad as hell. Okay? I am mad as hell. But my anger propels me to say, you better stop looking at my Black girl like a grown woman. This is who she is. So when we begin to go beyond anger, because anger is the first emotion that masks everything else. So when you get beyond being mad, what is hurting you, and taking your time with that and finding that there are many things you have to do. I've done therapy, prayer. I've been oiled up so much with some prayer oil. You know what I'm saying? I've done medication because I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, generalized anxiety, major depressive episodes along my journey. And I had to try everything, and everything won't work. And sometimes the first time you try something won't work. So it's a commitment to your journey. What's wrong with me? As my mother used to say, what's my basic maladjustment? Not everything, but what's the basic thing, that same story you keep telling yourself, the words that keep replaying, the experiences that keep replaying. Every time you try to take a step forward, that voice inside you say, no, not you. And in my book, I talk about feeling this pull. And I realized that in order to heal, I had to kill that false definition of myself. And she fought for her life. Do you hear me? She fought for her life. And I had to kill her because there was no way I could go to the next level of living that God had for me. But that same old mindset that I wasn't nothing, that I didn't deserve good, that I was shameful. So I had to kill the voices. I had to kill the thought patterns that kept me bound up. Healing is hard. It sounds nice and it sounds good, but healing is a battle, and it's not for punks. You have to have courage if you're going to heal your life. And that means that when it don't come the first time, you keep going. Healing is your birthright, and it is your call as a Black woman to both heal yourself and heal others. It's the power that we have as being the mothers of this earth. And so it's doing that, get an accountability partner. So that when you know, because we try to heal ourselves with the things that we've been broken, and God has shown me so much through this work. And so when we've been broken sexually, we try to heal ourselves with sex oftentimes. And so we wonder, because we think this next man, now he really is. He's the one that's going to redeem me. He's the one that's going to heal me. And you know, there's nobody outside you that's going to heal you. It's the God inside of you that will heal you. There's no thing outside of you that's going to heal you. And so as we begin to heal, we also have to look around us and see who are the people, the places, and the things that have kept us where we are. And we got to cut people off. We got to cut things off, and we got to cut off places that we go that continue to nurture who we ain't.
Woo.
My God.
Woo, hallelujah. Y'all know I be saying hallelujah, amen. Church, this is the synagogue, this is the chapel.
Okay.
Oh, Laleda, we are recording this because we're going to need to play this back and listen to this again. I hope you all are absorbing this in the most powerful way right now. And what you just said, Laleda, brought to bear one more quote that I pulled this morning. And you inspired all these quotes, you know, just
Thank
your
you.
embodiment of your power of healing and transformation brought me to these Black women who I printed out. You probably can't see it with my background, but you led me to these women this morning. And that's our ancestral pull, right? That ancestral memory as Black women, where we inspire each other to go back to our foremothers' words, right?
Yes.
Through how we carry forward today. June Jordan, the beautiful African-American artist. And this is you too for me, Laleda. She said, like a lot of Black women, I have always had to invent the power my freedom requires.
Okay.
Say that for y'all one more time. Like a lot of Black women, I have always had to invent the power my freedom requires.
Yes.
We can invent our freedom. We invent our power. This world does not dictate our power. It does not dictate who we are. It cannot dictate how we live. We talk about social determinants of health. We talk about systemic racism. It's real. We talk about social inequality, but there is still no power greater than our God-given power to invent our own freedom.
Absolutely.
And craft our own life, and we have to believe it, even in the midst of all of these forces that we confront. Laleda, Aaliyah has another question for you, and then we're going to talk about the chat, and then we're going to wrap up. We started about 5 minutes late with audio issues, so we're going to go over, and I've already been told we need to stretch this to an hour and a half. We're going to do that the next time.
I got the time this morning, but I want to
raise your hand, ladies, if you're in here, if you're still plugged in with us, if you're listening, if this is hitting you, if you're feeling it, yes, we're still in here. So Laleda, next question.
Can I just throw out something right quick, Lisa?
Yes.
One of the things as we're having conversation, language is really important.
Yes.
And so one challenge I give to us as Black women is watch the language that we use. If you look up Black girl, again, with the Google, you'll see Black girls this, Black girls that, Black girls this. And it's not talking about Black girls. So then if we continue to call ourselves girls, when do we have the conversations about Black girls? And we love to say, you know, Black girl magic, talking about Black girls, Black girls rock. And I think that language, because if you think somebody is magical, they don't need your help. They're fine. Black girls are magical. How are Black girls magical when 65,000 of them are missing? When 60% of them will be sexually abused by 18? You hear what I'm saying? How are they magical? We got to stop playing those games to say those things that comfort us, that our girls are okay, and get to business and stop calling ourselves girls too.
Oh, yes. I don't want to be called a girl. I want to be called a woman every day. Right. I did my girl time.
Okay. Girl time. Yes.
And it was a good time. It was a good time. Segueing to your art, Laleda, which is such a manifestation. Aaliyah has a question for you because it is to us just like the embodiment of your healing journey, of your power and how that power is coming forth. So go ahead, Aaliyah, before I ask the question for you.
Yeah, you already did. I'm over here forgetting I'm a co-host. I feel like I'm in church. I feel like I'm in a rally. I feel like I'm in a protest. I feel like I'm in all those things. So I'm feeling it. I'm gonna get it together though, because you talk about healing, and I think about the things that I wish I had connection to, that you have connection to, my kids have connection to, the spoken word or poetry or art. So I want to talk about your art. You have burst out on the scene. We see you everywhere. We see you on our mugs. I was just holding those earlier. She has more than mugs, y'all. Y'all want some magnets? She got magnets. Y'all want some bookmarks? She got bookmarks, okay? All of those things, beautiful depictions of Black women and girls. So talk about that. Talk about your pursuit of art and how it's tied to your freedom.
Yes. You know, my mural that I did on Goodman Jewelers is heavily covered with images of Black girls. And somebody asked me about that. And I said, you know, when you can look at art, art is not threatening. When you can look at art and you can see a Black girl, and, you know, when I'm talking about defending Black girlhood, the imaging that I want us to have are smiling Black girls, happy Black girls, joyous Black girls, not broken Black girls. Because we're trying to defend that smile in that Black girl. We're trying to defend that joy in that Black girl. So the images that I paint are those type of images. And my hope is that those of us who are afraid, those of them who are afraid of us, that the image will lead them closer, and they'll see the little balls. They'll see the toothless grins with the teeth missing. And that the next time that they see an actual Black girl, they'll remember that beautiful image that brought them in. Because I don't need you to stop just looking at my art. I need you to look at my art. Whew.
All right.
I need you to look at my art so that you can look at my babies differently. That's what I need you to do. So you can look at Black women differently. You know, a lot of the images with Black women, I will often add flowers to us because we get stripped of our femininity. And for our Black babies, you know, a lot of times I will draw images without faces, and people are like, ooh, why don't you draw faces? Because when I don't draw the face all in, people lean in closer. They look longer. If I give you everything, oh, that's a Black girl, and you keep going. You know, but when you have to lean in closer, you know, I was painting the image on Overture, and it's a picture of this Black girl. And basically I'm saying, Black girls can't be magical unless Black women sprinkle fairy dust on them. We are the reflection upon which they build their lives. And so knowing that, one, that as Black women, we have that responsibility to our girls, because they're not going to listen to what we say. They're going to look at how we love. They're going to look at who we let in our house, in our beds. They're going to look at what we allow in our lives. And that's what they're going to build their reflection about, not what you say. And so with the art, I'm painting this beautiful Black girl, Puffs. And I love that a lot of white people had come down on State Street looking at the images with their children, because I thought that was a really great way to begin some conversations with younger kids. But this white woman and her daughter walked past the image. The little girl was little. She says, "Mommy, is that a bear?" The woman says, yeah, baby, that could be a bear. And I'm thinking, why the hell would I be paying a bear? You know, so it's important for us and it's important for our would-be allies to have the conversations, because had that mother acknowledged that's a Black girl, let's talk about why we need to see images of Black girls, you know. But I saw a lot more mothers having conversations, the art sparking conversations. But that's what it is. I want you to, through what you see, I want it to move your heart. I want it to move your spirit. So the next time you see one of us in person, you act like we deserve to be acted upon.
Yes. Oh, Laleda, you are moving our spirit. You are moving us this morning. Aaliyah, give us some feedback from the chat, please. And we are wrapping you with so much love, Laleda.
Thank you.
We know that
Thank
this
you.
work emanates from your very core.
Yes.
We are feeling it and we are taking all that in. And I don't know how you all feel on this call, but I feel more powerful and more convicted in myself and in my own work to focus more deeply on our girls. I'm a mother of daughters and sons. And you are compelling me to even think about how much further we all need to go.
Yes.
Defending Black girls. Aaliyah, tell us what we're hearing in the chat before we ask Laleda our last wrap-up questions this morning.
Yeah, so I want to just reflect. I'm seeing a lot of words in the chat, but I've been paging through the beautiful images, and there's a lot of body language and tears and joy, and people just grab. So I just want to say that even for those who aren't actively typing, I'm seeing engaged. This is hitting folks really deep. So I just want to say that. So the language, the words that are being used that's so profound. Thank you. There's like, how can I support you type things. And there's Monique talks about Black girls protesting and playing joyfully. They shouldn't have to be serious all the time. They can be loose.
That's
and
right.
fun.
That's right.
Miss Mona talks about, leaning in. There's just thank yous for touching on the topic of Black women and not being able to be feminine. So I think we could have a whole nother conversation around that. So just thank yous, folks wanting to invite more people and do this some more. So amazing and inspiring. I love this. Thank you so much, etc. There's just a lot of, and a part 2 is being requested.
We're going to have a part 2. There was a comment. I want to know that we are seeing your comments, Barbara Balstead.
Yes.
On the next call, we will ask Laleda to speak about when she did the performance of her life. We have Jane Vandermeer saying, I just received an order of your beautiful art. And what are other ways to support you? Barbara says, this is so profound. Thank you. Laleda, leaning in. Yes. Someone said, I needed this morning. Superb. Yes, we need to affirm them all. So many more. And there's someone who put in the link, Laleda, where you can patronize her art. You can become a regular patron of her art, which is so critically important, of artists and Black women artists. So please visit patreon.com/Laleda for how you can be a patron. And I saw where you posted that your own children have become patrons of your art later, which is powerful. Now we're going to rattle off a few statements for you to end up for us to finish. I have zero time or patience for
white women tears.
I am grateful for
my children.
I will not quit until
Black girls are defended everywhere.
Oh, and your last statement for us. We're in this new world, post-COVID, whatever it is, this whole disruptive space and time that's kind of ambiguous right now. And though some of it has been brought on by struggle and pain, there is this new opportunity where we can create something completely new. And you all, I believe that, I feel that in my soul, that this is an opening toward a greater freedom that we create and that we define. What does that look like, Laleda, on the other side of a world of free Black girls and women?
To me, it gives us the space to do what we want, when we want, how we want, without having to ask permission from anyone. and it gives us safety in order to walk that out. And if I can throw one thing out there, if we look at the epidemic of the pandemic of 1918, someone had mentioned to me, it was during that time that Madam C.J. Walker was amassing her wealth. So I want y'all to understand, like Lisa said, this is our time, this is our season. And as I told a group of folks, I said, reparations may not come this way. I don't think our government will ever give us reparations, but reparation needs to come from this way. Oh. So I need white women in particular who are listening, that we need you to support our efforts and our work in the different iterations of our march towards freedom, because there's a time of reckoning, and it's time for us to be restored from those who continue to prosper from what has been taken.
Oh, and on that note, it's our time to prosper. It's
Yes.
our time to own. It's our time to heal. It's time to be our most self-defined, free selves, Black women,
Yes.
Black girls, defending our freedom in a new world that we create ourselves.
Yes.
We're doing it. Laleda, we want to thank you. Thank you. Everybody thank Laleda. You can unmute. Can we unmute everybody on the call so they can say, Laleda, Laleda, Laleda? Can we unmute?
Thank you so much. So needed.
Yes. We want to remind everyone.
So needed.
Yes, so needed. We want to remind everyone again, laleda.org. Go there right now. Go there today. Peruse. Purchase something you love. You know where it's going. You know the work that it's going to be fueling. You know it's going to ultimately defend us, our girls. Also visit www.ffbww.org, the Foundation for Black Women's Wellness. Grab your Well Black Woman t-shirt. And be back here next week, but not before hearing our parting words. Know thyself, love thyself, heal thyself. A nation can rise no higher than its women. We are the answer. We have the power. We are free Black women. Thank you, Laleda. We love you.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mwah.